The United States and China have called for a 90-day truce in their trade war. The Trump administration has agreed to reduce its 145% tariff rate on Chinese goods to 30%. China has agreed to lower its tariff rate on U.S. goods to 10%. Both countries say they're planning more talks on resolving trade disputes. President Donald Trump was asked about what happens next during a press conference he gave this morning.
If a longer-term deal is not reached with China at the end of these 90 days, can the American people expect those tariffs to go back up to 145%?
No, but they would go up substantially higher.
Okay. And then
at 145, you're really decoupling because nobody's going to buy. But they can go, they got very high because of additional tariffs I applied during the course because of fentanyl and other things. But no, but they'd go substantially higher.
U.S. stocks soared after today's announcement, but analysts warned conditions could still quickly change. The deal is welcome news to Kentucky U.S. Senator Rand Paul. He met with business leaders today in Louisville to hear their concerns about Trump's tariffs and trade policy. Our June Leffler has more.
Paul responded to reporters not long after the deal with China was announced.
If it's lowering tariffs, it's good. If it raises tariffs, it's bad, even with China.
The new agreement with China is ideally not the last, Paul says.
And China's the nation we have more of an adverse relationship with any other country right now than maybe Russia. And I think what you're finding, though, is that if we were to cut off trade with China, sure, it hurts China, but it's going to hurt us, too.
Do you trust the president, though, in his tactics?
I would prefer we weren't putting tariffs on.
Paul has pulled no punches with the president on this topic. He's urged colleagues in Congress to step in and roll back Trump's tariffs.
The key fallacy is that those who are for tariffs say we're being ripped off, that somehow other countries are ripping us off. You trade with Walmart, you trade with Target, you trade with Amazon, you buy things. And if those things were made in another country and you buy them, you still voluntarily thought it was a good deal.
Monday, Paul met with Louisville's business community, who relayed their concerns to the senator.
Just today, we had representatives from business services sectors, healthcare. We had office furniture in the room, manufacturing. We had the bourbon industry in the rooms. And then the uncertainty itself creates some challenges. Will my supplier have products for me to sell 90 days from now? Those are all questions that have arisen. And in some cases, we've seen products taken off the shelves. That has been the case with bourbon in Canada. And so now the bourbon industry cannot sell their products. It's not even that consumers in Canada have a choice to pay more. It is they can't even purchase it in Canada.
Paul says tariffs are getting in the way of a free and fair economy.
But you really shouldn't have to live where the only way your business can succeed is by hiring lobbyists and trying to convince somebody to give you an exemption. Like with China, Apple got an exemption for their iPhone, but Apple's a huge trillion-dollar business, and they have the leverage to do it. But what if you sell toasters and you import them from China and you sell toasters and you have a successful business and people like and buy your toasters, but you don't have enough of a lobbyist to get an exemption, then your business gets crushed and the bigger businesses don't. So, having a hodgepodge of things where you can get an exemption if you have an expensive lobbyist isn't a good idea either.
Kentucky car makers face a complicated tariff system. This month, 25% tariffs on imported auto parts went into effect, though the industry successfully lobbied for various reimbursements for those parts. For Kentucky Edition, I'm June Leffler.
Thank you, June. Speaking of the auto industry, the CEO of Ford said last month that layoffs are not in sight for the 12,000 Louisville-based workers. UPS, which has its Worldport hub in Louisville, has announced major layoffs. UPS has not announced if or how many Louisville workers could lose their jobs.